What's up, everybody? Today, I'm very excited to announce my guest. He's a former New Orleans Saints first-round pick, Notre Dame alum, and co-host of the Easy Sports Talk Show, Irv Smith Sr. How's it going today, brother?
All is well, man. Good to be here with you guys today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So first and foremost, why don't you tell us a little bit about your hometown of Trenton, New Jersey, and what makes it so special?
Well, Trenton is where all my family's from. My mom was born there. My dad was born there. My grandparents lived there. Uncles and aunts, cousins, you name it, nephews, nieces. That's where our bloodline comes from. It's America. It's Middle America people, and that's where my roots are from. I was born in Trenton. I was raised in a little town called Pemberton, which is kind of in the suburbs. And it's like funny because I go on Facebook and like 300, 400, 500 of my friends are all in common. We're all, we've been friends since I was probably 4, 5, 6 years old, and we'll be friends until the day we die.
That's awesome. Like a tight-knit community. So tell us a little bit about your recruiting process in high school and how you ended up and why you ended up choosing to attend Notre Dame.
Well, it's funny. I didn't even know where Notre Dame was until I took my recruiting visit to go there. You heard the name, but it's not like Southern California or South Carolina or Florida. It's Notre Dame. There's no, it doesn't tell you it's in South Bend, Indiana. And I got off a plane. It was December. It was cold. It was miserable. And I saw the lady on the dome, and I had a chance to interact with players that were students first. They were student athletes. And I visited USC, I visited UCLA, I visited Florida State, I visited Clemson, and believe it or not, Auburn was supposed to be my last visit, and I was actually going to go to Auburn. I wanted to be like Bo Jackson. I played baseball. I was a baseball player that was good at football, and I wanted to go to Auburn. And what happened was the week before my Auburn trip, I got a call from the recruiter at Auburn and said, "Irv, I'm sorry, but we don't have any scholarships left for you. We just signed 2 tight ends from the state of Alabama." And at that point, I committed to go to Clemson, and Notre Dame just wouldn't give up. A guy by the name of Vinny Serrato, who was the recruiting coordinator back then, who's still a great friend of mine to this day. Vinny wouldn't leave me alone. He said, "Irv, you just got to take the trip." So I committed to Clemson that day. I went to Notre Dame for the visit, and by the time the weekend was over, I changed my mind, and I said, "I'm going to Notre Dame, and things will never be the same ever again."
Wow, that's a crazy story. So what was it like being a first-round pick by the Saints? And what'd you do at Notre Dame to stand out to scouts?
Well, being a first-round pick is a dream. It's something that, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It doesn't happen for a lot of people, but I was very fortunate that I had guys in front of me that paved the way, that showed what you needed to do to become a first-round pick. And all I did, honestly, was I was a copy. I tried to be a perfect copy of a Derek Brown, a perfect copy of a Todd Light, a perfect copy of a, Rocket Ishmael. The list goes on and on. When I was at Notre Dame, it was nothing but great examples. So I had no excuse. And they all paved the way and showed what it took to become a first rounder. And all I did was emulate them. I wanted to be a perfect copy of those guys to give myself a chance of becoming a first round pick.
Yeah, it paid off. And who do you think like helped you the most in your transition from Notre Dame to the NFL?
That's a great question. I can't say one person. I mean, it was so many people that were instrumental in my development, from my mom and dad to Coach Holtz to teammates like Derek Brown. So many guys I played with, so many guys that were before me, so many guys that were after me. My greatest friends to this day are guys that I became, brothers with at Notre Dame. And we all, I think, attributed to each other's success. So I can't say one person or one facet, because there's so many things that, you can't put your finger on one thing that helps you get to that next level, because if you did that, you'd be negating all the other great things and great people that were part of your success. All I can say is the Notre Dame family, from my personal family to coaches, to teammates, to classmates, to teachers, all the way down, were a huge part of helping me become what I became.
Yeah, for sure. So after your tenure, you spent 5 seasons with the Saints, and then after that, you went to the San Francisco 49ers to play with them. What was it like switching teams after, spending your entire career in New Orleans with the Saints?
It was a breath of fresh air. New Orleans is a great place. I was so grateful to become a first-round pick there and play down there for the years I did. Going to San Francisco was a breath of fresh air because I got to play with people like Jerry Rice and Steve Young and Terrell Owens and Garrison Hurst and J.J. Stokes and Ken Norton Jr. and Merton Hanks and my old teammate Notre Dame, Bryant Young, and Junior Bryant. I mean, I could name so many guys. It was one season, but I always tell people it was actually the season that was probably the most blessed season to me, because I was able to play in an organization that really took pride in the players, the way they treated the players, and the organization all the way around.
Yeah. And you just kind of mentioned it, but you went to San Francisco and you were part of a great season and a great roster. Steve Young, Terrell Owens, Jerry Rice, J.J. Stokes. The list goes on and on. What was it like, kind of going from a subpar Saints team, only like an 8-8 season, I think was the best season they had throughout your tenure, to a NFL powerhouse at the time?
It was like being I could never tell you enough how fun of a season that was. People always ask me what was my favorite season, and I played 5 years with the Saints, which I had a great tenure there. But that one year was just a blessed year that I got a chance to rub elbows with some of the great players that I'd watched on the other side of the field for so many years. To be a part of that team, that organization, to be part of that offense, and to go against that defense every day in practice. It was just, for me, it was the highlight of my career, because I'll be able to look back on that for always and say I was actually out on the field and participated and helped a great team like that play.
Yeah, for sure. And so what was life like after you decided to hang up the cleats? You spent one last year in Cleveland, right? And then you decided to hang them up after that, or was it you weren't getting much interest? Like, what was the process there?
I was tired. My son was turning 2 years old, and at that point of my life, I had transitioned from being a football player to being a dad. And I made the decision that at that point I wanted to focus on being a dad. My son was 2, and I didn't want to be on the road like I was anymore, and I wanted to focus on him. And I was very fortunate that for the next 17, 18, 19 years, I was able to raise him, be a part of his life, and now get him into the NFL. And now he's realizing his dreams, just like I was able to realize my dreams.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to touch on that a little bit later. But so currently you're a co-host of your own radio show called The Easy Sports Talk that you and your brother co-host. How'd you get into like the radio business, and what's that journey kind of been like for you?
Well, really, my brother.
Can't hear you. I think you muted on accident. I can't hear you.
You know?
Yeah, we're good. And we're
Okay.
back.
Sorry about that, man.
Oh,
It's
you're
been
good.
a busy day. But can you give me that question one more time again? I'm sorry.
So, we're kind of just talking about your sports show and how you ended up getting into the business.
I did radio and TV for many years when I was playing ball. I had a couple radio shows and TV shows and parts of broadcasts I would do when I was with the Saints, and also when I played with the Niners and the Browns. And it's always been something that's been in my blood. I enjoy it. I enjoy sharing information about the game from one way I see it from my perspective. And my brother does the show full time. I'm so busy with my son and with life and my career that I can't dedicate any time to on a weekly basis to doing it. But every once in a while I get on the show and help out. But it always brings back to my roots, because I love doing it. I just don't have the time to really do it as much as I like to. But certainly I've always loved radio and TV and being able to share the perspective from the player versus the fan.
Me too. And that's kind of why I started getting into podcasting. I just like giving, athletes, former athletes, everybody just like an opportunity to just kind of share their story from their point of view. So I'm glad that you kind of said that that's like a similar reason, because that's kind of why I started getting into podcasting. But so your son, Irv Smith Jr. is drafted this past year in the second round to the Minnesota Vikings. What was it like getting to share that experience with him?
You know what? It was nothing better. It made me realize what my parents were able to experience when they went through the process with me. You never know what your parents go through, but being a parent and doing it yourself, it kind of gives you a little glimpse into what they experienced when they went through it with me. And it was nothing better. I tell you, it was probably the proudest moment of my entire life, way bigger than the moment that I went through myself, because it was a journey that I remember from the day he was born to get to where he was. And it wasn't like we birthed him with the intention for him to be a football player. We birthed him with the intention to be a great young man, a great person, a great human being, and God just blessed him to become a great athlete and to work so hard to accomplish his goals and dreams.
Yeah, and how do you kind of go about that? Like, did he just like come up to you one day and say, "Hey, Dad, I want to play football," or like how'd that happen?
Well, he's always played sports, and he played basketball. I wouldn't even let him play football until his eighth grade, and he got in the eighth grade. But he's always played sports and he loved football. He just loved the sport. And so when he started playing, it just became so natural for him because he played sports from the time he was 2 years old until he started playing football. He was always playing basketball and he's very athletic. So it was just one of the things that just evolved. You don't raise a child to be a NFL star, not like that. You just raise a child to play and to stay out of trouble and to stay busy and to have fun. And we spent many weekends and days and weeks and months in the gym and eventually on the football field. And he just turned into a junkie. He fell in love with the sport. And you can tell by the way he works at it that he just loves it. He doesn't like it. I liked football. My son loves football. And that's what makes him so good.
Yeah, for sure. So, what are your thoughts on like the Saints' current tight end situation? They got Jared Cook on a contract year, and then Adam Troutman was drafted. He's out here being compared to George Kittle. What are your thoughts on that as far as the future of the Saints?
The Saints, the tight end position, they're really strong there. They've always had strong tight ends there, and they certainly have a good group of guys there right now. It's going to be interesting to see. Bottom line is they've got good players. They got a great quarterback, a great coach, a great team. So they'll always be good, and it just depends on how good they want to be. But they certainly will be a good football team, and they'll certainly be a good group of tight ends.
Yeah, for sure. Any predictions for the Saints in 2020?
I think it's like anything else, man. They're going to have a good season. It's all going to come down to the little things, who wins and loses, but they're always going to have a great team. They have a great program, and they're going to do well for sure.
One last question for you, Irv. Do you have any advice to the young athletes out there chasing their NFL dreams?
Don't put all your eggs in one basket. There's only but so many guys can make it. Certainly get your education. Certainly focus on things you can do to become a better human being and a better person long term. Work hard and give yourself an opportunity to be successful, but don't put all your eggs in one basket.
All right, Irv. Thank you so much, guys. Irv Smith Sr., guys, former Saints, 49ers, and Browns tight end.